India's story does not begin in its temples or its kingdoms. It begins in silence, beneath the soil, in forgotten bones, in the faint molecular echoes carried inside every human cell. Long before there were cities, or gods, or spoken myths, there were footsteps across an ancient landscape. Footsteps of people who did not know they were writing the first chapters of one of humanity's greatest stories. The land that would one day be called India was not a nation, not a civilization, not even a concept. It was simply a place where human beings wandered, survived, and eventually transformed the world. The oldest threads of India's story belong to groups of ancient hunter-gatherers who arrived tens of thousands of years ago, long before the first seeds were planted or the first walls were built. They moved along coastlines, through forests, across rivers with no names. Their tools were simple, their world unpredictable, yet their resilience unmatched. For thousands of years, these early people lived in tune with the land, following animals, watching the seasons change, carving out an existence with stone, fire, and memory. They left no written record, but they left something far more enduring: DNA. The same DNA that still flows in millions today. Time passed slowly. For thousands of years, nothing dramatic happened. No cities, no large-scale settlements, no kings or conquests. But beneath this quiet surface, evolution and culture continued to shape the first Indians. And then slowly, something began to shift. Far to the west, in the lands that would one day be Iran, Iraq, and the mountains of the Zagros, the earliest farmers were experimenting with wheat, barley, goats, and sheep. This new way of life, agriculture, was a revolution. It changed everything. Human beings could now stay in one place. They could plan, they could accumulate, they could build. Some of these early farming lineages began moving eastward. Generation after generation, they moved across plains, deserts, and mountain passes until they reached the frontiers of the Indian subcontinent. They did not arrive as conquerors, but as migrants, travelers carrying knowledge that would transform the land. When they encountered the descendants of India's ancient hunter-gatherers, two very different worlds collided. But the collision was not violent. It was gradual, intimate, and transformative. The early farmers brought new plants, new animals, and new ideas. The local hunter-gatherers contributed resilience, skills, and deep familiarity with the land. Their meeting did not erase one group or elevate another. Instead, it formed something entirely new. From this meeting, the earliest agricultural settlements began appearing in places like Balochistan and the foothills of the Himalayas. At first, these were small fragile villages, mud walls, simple pottery, grain stored in clay bins. But over centuries, these settlements grew. People began to design their homes, organize their communities, and manage water sources with increasing skill. Families stayed in the same place for generations. For the first time, people could imagine a future beyond simple survival. And then, one of the most astonishing events in human history took place: the rise of the Indus Valley civilization. Using nothing but human hands, communal cooperation, and an instinct for innovation, these early communities transformed into an urban miracle, one of the world's first major civilizations. The cities of the Indus Valley, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Dholavira, Lothal, were not chaotic places filled with war and hierarchy. They were planned with a precision that even modern engineers find remarkable. Streets ran in perfect grids. Drainage systems carried wastewater underground. Homes were built with standard-sized bricks. There were marketplaces, granaries, workshops, and possibly even administrative centers. The Indus people were not ruled by kings in the way other ancient civilizations were. Their legacy shows no grand palaces, no massive temples, no statues glorifying rulers. Instead, their world was built on order, collective intelligence, and a shared vision of life. They traded with Mesopotamia, crafted intricate jewelry, sculpted figurines, and developed a script so mysterious that even today no one can read it. They were engineers, farmers, artists, sailors, and thinkers. They represented one of the greatest achievements of ancient humanity. But even civilizations built with brilliance are not eternal. Sometime after 1900 BCE, the great Indus cities began to decline. Climate change altered river routes. Droughts grew longer. Trade networks collapsed. Slowly, people abandoned the great cities. They did not vanish. They scattered, moving into villages, plains, forests, and hills. Their descendants still live across the subcontinent today. Their bloodlines remain alive in the DNA of millions. And as these earlier populations spread and mingled, another group began moving across the vast Eurasian grasslands. They were pastoralists from the steppe, skilled riders, cattle herders, and storytellers. These people carried traditions, rituals, and languages that would one day form the roots of Indo-European culture. They were not an army. They were families traveling with their animals in search of better pastures. Over generations, they moved southward through Central Asia, eventually reaching the Indian subcontinent. When they arrived, they encountered a land already full of people. Descendants of ancient hunter-gatherers, early Iranian-related farmers, and survivors of the Indus Valley civilization. Their arrival created yet another fusion, another layer in India's genetic and cultural story. Instead of one group replacing another, the populations mixed, blended, transformed. New languages emerged, new rituals took shape. The earliest roots of Sanskrit began to grow. The early foundations of what would later become the Vedic culture started forming not through conquest, but through deep cultural exchange.
India was never shaped by a single migration. It was shaped by many. Its people are not descended from one bloodline, but from thousands of encounters, exchanges, and interwoven ancestries. Every region tells a different story. The tribes of the Andaman Islands preserve the deepest echoes of the first humans to leave Africa. The people of South India carry ancient lineages reaching back tens of thousands of years. Northern communities reflect mixtures of farmers, pastoralists, and early urban settlers. The Northeast connects deeply with East and Southeast Asia. Coastal regions show histories of trade stretching across oceans. India is not a melting pot, it is a mosaic, each piece unique, ancient, and essential. Across thousands of years, new kingdoms rose and fell, empires spread and collapsed, religions emerged, intertwined, adapted. But the genetic foundation of India remained layered, diverse, and deeply human. Every community, every family line carries within itself the memory of migrations, the resilience of survival, the creativity of adaptation. Modern science, through the extraordinary power of genetics, has revealed that no group in India is pure, isolated, or untouched by history. The idea of a single origin is not just incorrect, it ignores the beauty of the actual story. Because the true story is far more powerful. India is one of the most genetically diverse places on earth, not because it was invaded repeatedly, but because it has always been a crossroads of humanity. Ideas, foods, languages, rituals, technologies, and people themselves moved freely across this land for millennia. Every exchange added a new thread to the tapestry, and every thread mattered. When scientists first sequenced ancient DNA from buried remains in Rakhi Gadhi and other sites, they found something astounding. The ancestors of the Indus Valley people were a mixture of ancient South Asian hunter-gatherers and early Iranian-related farmers, confirming what archaeology had long suspected. Later studies added another layer, the arrival of steppe pastoralists who contributed to the ancestry of many northern populations. But none of these groups disappeared, none replaced the others. Instead, they merged into the complex genetic landscape that defines India today. Walk through any market in India, and you'll notice faces as diverse as continents. Skin tones ranging from deep bronze to pale wheat, hair textures from tight curls to straight black strands, languages flowing like rivers, carrying centuries of poetry and memory. This is not accidental. This is the inheritance of thousands of years of migration and mixing. Every person in India is a living archive of human history. This is the truth modern genetics reveals, a truth more beautiful than any myth. India is not the product of one people, but of many. Its roots do not grow in a single direction. They spread outward, across continents, across ages, connecting ancient seasons of humanity. The DNA in every Indian cell carries memories older than temples, older than scriptures, older than cities. Memories written not in ink, but in life itself. Today, when we look at India, we do not see a civilization frozen in time. We see a living, breathing lineage stretching back tens of thousands of years. A lineage that survived climate shifts, migrations, collapses, and rebirths. A lineage that adapted again and again, never fading, always evolving. The people of India are not descendants of just farmers, or just pastoralists, or just hunter-gatherers. They are the descendants of all of them. That is what makes the story powerful. That is what makes it real. The story of India is the story of humanity, a story shaped by movement, by curiosity, by survival. A story that says we are all connected, not by purity, but by complexity. Not by isolation, but by exchange. And within this complexity lies the true identity of India, an identity built over thousands of years, carried forward in every child born today, and encoded forever in the DNA that links every Indian to the deepest origins of humankind.